centuries ago, the Roman orator Cicero wrote that history is the witness that testifies to the passing of time. It illumines reality, vitalizes memory, provides guidance in daily life, and brings us tidings of antiquity. Cicero also counseled that the would-be historian needs to be truthful, suppress nothing, and fight prejudice and malice.
Leopold von Ranke, the German scholar who pioneered modern historical methods, shared Cicero's view that history ought to tell how events came to pass. It was not the historian's job, as he saw it, to pass judgments. He was to present the facts and allow the reader to draw his own or her own conclusions.
But one man's fact is another man's fiction, prompting Napoleon Bonaparte once to remark,
"What is history but a fable agreed upon?"
For the most part, respected historical writing includes both a presentation of facts and an inclusion of interpretations.
In Henry Shapiro's Appalachia on Our Mind, for example, the author suggests that the history of the idea of Appalachia and the history of Appalachia are not one and the same. His research and those of other scholars have shown that the image of Appalachia is in part a complex of fictions created by local color writers of the 1870s and onwards, by missionaries at various times, and by regional developers and others at a later period. While Henry Shapiro and his colleagues have busied themselves dispelling the myths concerning the history, development, and heritage of the Appalachian region, their fellow historians have been at work on a wide range of subjects. Each, in turn, seeks to shed light on a particular aspect of the American experience.
Some have written general histories of the United States. Others have focused on any number of specialized topics, such as the history of U.S. race relations, Native Americans, their culture and traditions, ethnic groups who immigrated to the Americas from Europe during the 19th and early 20th centuries, and the social geography of our natural historical development.
Still, other scholars have concentrated their efforts on events of particular importance to our past, or studies of our relations with other nations, or analyses of the growth of trade and the development of the world economy.
History need not concern itself solely with ancient happenings. Recent events have also come under the scrutiny of researchers. Thomas Carlyle, a 19th century British man of letters, once wrote that
"The history of the world is but the biography of great men."
Most professional historians today would not share Carlyle's view. Today, women's history and the study of regional and community development have emerged as bona fide fields of research. However, biography continues to flourish as yet another aspect of historical writing.
With the coming of our bicentennial celebration, many state and community agencies began to involve themselves in the researching, promotion, and writing of local history. They busied themselves with the study of those aspects of history often ignored or neglected by professional scholars. While these organizations used their newly acquired knowledge to produce useful booklets and articles, they also produced plays and pageants documenting important episodes from the past. Bicentennial projects like these drew many non-professionals into historical research and related activities. In their quest for the facts and for accompanying legend and folklore, community people turned to local experts in preparing their programs and publications.
In Unicoi County, Tennessee, the community benefited from the presence of their own historian, Pat Alderman. By the time of the bicentennial, he had established himself as a local authority of some renown. Though a musician by training, Pat came to the field of local and regional history with both enthusiasm and sensitivity. His many publications are a testament to his achievement. His works deal with a wide range of subjects, including the history of the mountaineer in eastern Tennessee, the Cherokee Indians, the lost state of Franklin, the Battle of Kings Mountain, and the Clinchfield Railroad. Pat Alderman was born in Dunn, North Carolina on October 31st, 1901. He received his academic training at Wake Forest College, Howard College, and the Chicago Conservatory of Music. He came to East Tennessee not as an historian, but as a teacher of music.
In 48 or 49, I got a call from Stanley Harris, who was Secretary of the Chamber of Commerce in Boone. I'd had some contact with him in scouting earlier. Wanted me to come over and talk about doing a pageant over in Boone, North Carolina. So I went over to Boone and talked to him, and we sort of got together. It was much of a, I don't think there was any contract made. We just talked. And so we put on Echoes of the Blue Ridge. And doing this, while I was doing the research work, I found out that practically all of the prominent people that we needed in the story had just passed through Boone on the way across the mountains. Daniel Boone was one of the first ones, and James Robinson, and a host of others. But I found that very few of them stopped in Boone, North Carolina. They came over to Tennessee, where Tennessee is now established. So after I finished the production, which turned out fairly well, with the material I had to work with, I became interested in the story of East Tennessee. I hadn't been so busy with music since I'd been up here, and I hadn't had time to pay much attention to it. So I borrowed every book I could get hold of. George Williams' books on the early days of the Tennessee Valley. So I went to Knoxville and spent some time down there in the history department after I'd exhausted all the material I could find over at the library in Johnson City, the Maine Williams Library at that time. So I started putting a lot of notes together. So I moved up here in 50 as Irwin.
His experiences at Boone and the growing interest of the community in historical pageants led Pat Alderman to produce his first major work as a local historian, The Over Mountain Men.
I'm here to take charge of the music First Baptist Church and the high school chorus. And I hadn't been here long before some of the boys approached me about doing summer pageants were beginning to go then, and I told them I'd do what I could, and I got out my material and wrote The Over Mountain Men play. And the play, we started off, we had less than a shoestring to work on. And it was a very thin, weak shoestring. But everybody pitched in, and this one do that and that one do that. We made most of our own props, made our own fort. We made most of our own costumes. We rented, the first year we rented a few from a costume company up north. I don't remember the name of it now. Then the boys began to dig up and found the old flintlock guns to furnish the gun end of it, and all the other props.
In preparing the script for the production of the Over Mountain Men, Pat was obliged to study the Indians of the region, especially the Cherokee, as well as the white settlers. He combined his knowledge of music with his growing interest in history in developing his texts.
And then I started working with the Indians, teaching them something. I didn't know how to do Indian dances. I had to learn all this because it was a new field for me entirely. And so we did use the Indian headdress, a Western Indian headdress, for the simple reason most people in the East do not accept an Indian as an Indian without the ceremonial headdress, which the Cherokees never used. We did the Indian dances, and I got converted a few Navajo tunes and other Indian tunes. But just as comment on Indian music. Indian music has never been copied by our notation. You see, the Indian music didn't have it didn't have 4 beats to the measure. A lot of them had 5 beats to the measure. And they had quarter steps instead of half steps. And so our notation will not copy exactly the Indian tunes. Now we hit Arab and get a similarity of the Indian tune, but we can't copy it.
Pat has never lost interest in the Cherokees and their mistreatment by the mountaineers and later by the U.S. government. In 1978, he published his study of Nancy Ward, the fiery Cherokee chieftainess who strove to preserve peace between the white and Indian races and to protect those settlers victimized by her more warlike people. At the same time, Pat wrote about Dragging Canoe, the warrior who encouraged his fellow Cherokee chiefs to fight the every advance of the white settlers.
More recently, public broadcast television produced 2 special programs about the Cherokees based on the research and writings of Pat Alderman. These programs, like The Pageant, The Over Mountain Men, chronicle early contacts between the Cherokees and the white settlers. They then go beyond this story to document the Trail of Tears. This cruel expropriation of the Cherokee territories by the United States government led to the ultimate destruction of the Cherokee Nation of the Southeast.
Pat's writings are directed at the public in an effort to interest and entertain as much as educate. His books also include numerous pictures drawn by local artists such as Edith Price, Lee B. Andrews, Ken Ferguson, and Eileen Bond, and photographs taken by the author.
Well, I was developing photographs when I was in high school, and I'd expose them by lamplight, oil lamp, and had my own solutions there and work them. I still got 2 or 3 of those pictures somewhere in all my junk, and but I never had time for pictures much, and so I swapped 25 of these books for a German-made camera that the fellow had and didn't know how to operate, and he wanted these books, and so I swapped them that, and all the color work that I've done since has been with that camera. And I had, for instance, all these black and white pictures in here were made with a Polaroid. I did that for the simple reason that I could, just like these here, I could tell what I had.
Indeed, photographs play a large part in Pat Alderman's publications. His love of natural history is reflected throughout his work. He strives to incorporate the natural beauty of the region into his stories of its historical and cultural past. Pat's ability to combine natural history and folklore have led to posters and postcards that promote the region's physical beauty. Eventually, these works generated such community interest that Pat and his friends established the Unicoi Naturalist Rally, where people could come together to learn more about the natural environment and history of eastern Tennessee. But perhaps the subject of greatest interest to local historian Pat Alderman is the mountaineer, his lifestyle, culture, and values.
Well, the mountaineers were the people who had, not many of them had money enough to buy the choice valley land, the flatlands. So they had to choose what they could get in the hills, the hill ridges. And so they would, as with otherwise, they followed the idea of selecting a place that had water. Well, gradually, as the settlements increased in the mountains, they developed. They were outside of the laws of the flatland communities because they had so little contact. And so they developed their own code of laws, their own customs, their own ways of doing things, and their own attitudes towards life. And so they raised, for instance, now on the economic side, they raised their corn, but they had no roads to haul it to where they could sell it. So they turned to the easiest way to do it. They turned it into whiskey, and that's where the still got its main start. Their idea of security was plenty of firewood, ham and bacon in the smokehouse, enough dried fruit and vegetables for winter, seed for spring planting, and faith in God. They had no rent or insurance to pay, no notes to meet, and no fuel to buy. And that was his security. And he trapped for furs and big herbs and ginseng to gather at the store and swap them for his essentials.
Like most of us, Pat loves a good story, but will not write it up unless he has researched it himself. This often entails visiting the sites of past events or hunting for the tombstones and ruins that serve as documents of local history. In Greasy Cove, for example, Pat retells the story of the famous horse race between Andrew Jackson and Robert Love. When Jackson's jockey took sick, the future President of the United States rode the horse himself, poorly and to defeat. Jackson, we are told, was not a gracious loser.
Another colorful story concerns the exploits of David Greer, the so-called hermit of Big Bald Mountain, who, when spurned by the woman he loved, moved to Big Bald and lived for a while in a cave, declaring himself sovereign of the mountain. Greer dug a ditch around his property to keep his livestock in and his neighbors out. At that altitude, trees for fences were scarce. Unlike most mountaineers, David Greer was particularly disagreeable. Those who crossed him usually ended up dead, but not without some notoriety.
Stories of regional history live on because of the efforts and research of Pat Alderman and his fellow local historians. Through their books, pageants, pictorial displays, and brochures, the communities of this region have been enriched and brought closer to their historical roots. Anyone with patience, persistence, and a sincere interest in the past can get involved in historical research. Library materials afford a good starting point. Your local library will have many references and history books from which you can learn about your community. Archives and county records offices offer still more sources of information, including old documents and tax records, maps, and photographs. The end product of local history research need not be a book. Many historical and genealogical societies carry out research projects to establish historic markers within the community. Others have studied their community in an effort to authenticate and add to old maps of the region. Still others have used local history projects to restore or reestablish pioneer settlements and other historic sites. Finally, and most importantly, many people practice local history for the sheer fun of it, reenacting historical events and cooking or making household goods as our ancestors made them. Through the practice of local history, we will become more aware of our historical heritage and those natural wonders that make our own communities unique. In so doing, we will come to a better understanding of Appalachia, its meaning, and its peoples.
So isolation developed one of the most unusual forms of Americanism known to America. Now, a lot of people say education is the thing that brought the mountaineer out. It wasn't. It wasn't education at all. Roads. It was roads. And so as the people who think education is what did it, they're entirely wrong.